Welcome to the ET session, where we have invited some super specialists from the industry, both from the retailer fraternity and the shopping developer fraternity, talking about the future of retail, focusing more on the digital aspects and the changing needs of the consumer, and how each of us in the industry is seeing the change and participating in the change. I think we are trying to be a little bit more interactive to see that we will be able to bring some insights and learnings, and which will be shared with the industry. I'm sure you know the eminent panelists. To start off, we have Pushpa Bector, who is Executive Director, DLF Retail, DLF Malls. They already have operational centers and are building 3 new large centers in the pipeline. Pushpa comes with a background from retail as well as managing shopping center. Mukesh is the CEO of Infinity Malls. They have 2 shopping centers operational. He comes with a background from hospitality and as well as running these centers for a decade. And we've got Nirupa Shankar, Executive Director, Brigade Enterprises. She started off with handling the hospitality business for their company, and now she is also driving the retail piece. Now, from the retailers front, we have Ganesh Kumar, Chief Operating Officer, Raymond's Limited, who is coming to transform Raymond's into a digital company. He is the CEO of the lifestyle business. We've got Rajesh Jain, Managing Director and CEO of Lacoste India. And to moderate, it will be myself, Shubhranshu Pani. I'm the MD Retail Services for JLL. JLL has been a retail consulting firm for over 20 years, and we have supported most retailers and developers in their journey and hope to do so in the future. To keep the context straight to the topics, and Pushpa, we can start with you. What do you think has been the change over the last 2-3 years? Because I think in everybody's mind, there is a COVID, there's a pre-COVID, and there's a post-COVID. And we are seeing things change very quickly, rapidly, with a pain and then a bounce back. So what is the change that has been in the retail industry? Basically from 3-4 prospects. One is the type of stores, the size of stores, and the category of stores. What do you see in the industry in your centers?
So it's a good question, Shubhranshu, and thank you everyone. Thank you, ET, for this forum. What I see as changes, first of all businesses, because of COVID, has done a deep dive to understand how can we make our operations more efficient. Now, here I speak for the industry, as the developers have done it, retailers have done it, and F&B partners have done it. They've made their spaces more cost efficient and more customer centric. Both these have happened. And one has realized there's reduction in staff, of course, wherever they felt that there was a flap, that has happened. Second, there has been optimization of space. People have looked at the spaces that they have occupied acutely. But at the same time, in retail, I didn't see any drastic reduction that's happened. I'm talking about optimization of the way the store is laid out. Here now the focus is a lot more on building trust of the consumers. So it is, be it sanitization, the efforts of sanitization, be it training the staff to be more sensitive to the customer needs. These are the changes that I see. Now, when you walk into a store today, customers are more sensitive to see, does this customer want to touch the product or not? If not, then what's the next sequence? They're trained in order to get the customer still engaged without the customer having to touch or using the fitting room. Now, these are drastic changes in adaptation to customer behavior, changing customer behavior. We saw that a lot more after the first wave. After the second wave, people are more comfortable in terms of touch and feel, trying out in fitting rooms. That aspect has eased off. Yet, what has really changed is the digi payments. That's here to stay. Digital wallets, the way people engage in terms of payments, they don't need to, they don't want to unnecessarily touch an external space unless and until it's required, especially a multi-touch environment like a EDC machine, And then there are sanitization mechanisms right around to make the customer feel better. This is from a customer standpoint. From a mall standpoint, of course, we, especially in DLF malls, I think we understood long back that the way to win back customers is through safety, compliant operations, and developing trust of customers. And, DLF has started this journey of compliance and safety. You very well know, Shubhranshu, a good 8 years back when we tied up with DuPont for our safety journey. And that's in, almost the culture of the company. People in our company, we have zero tolerance to, compliance issues or safety. And that has actually worked extremely well during COVID because the customers knew, so did the retailers, that we will be most fastidious when it comes to ensuring that everything is sanitized on a regular basis. And we will ensure that customers feel that comfort. This got reciprocated beautifully from the end customer angle because they felt safer in a DLF environment as compared to many other environments. Without having to name people, they just felt safer. They knew that the protocols are completely in place, it's well managed. We ensured that there were many contactless mechanisms that were put into place, but it's just the ease of the customer knowing that, yes, at the background, it's not just lip service. These people mean business. I think that to me has been the key in terms of change. From a customer and behavior point of view, I would think that after second wave, I've been pleasantly surprised to see the resurgence of customers towards the offline spaces. It's been far, far quicker as compared to the first wave. And people are back on track. They have missed out the touch and feel of shopping. And they have, as a shopping center, manager, one thing that I have understood is that experiential retailing is going to be the differentiator. And we had engaged a lot vis-a-vis experiential retailing, and that's worked out very well for us. These to me are the broad changes.
Great, Pushpa. I think that gives a very strong background of what has changed. And so I'll skip the topic for everybody else. But Nirupa, I wanted to ask you one question with this context a little bit from a contrarian point of view. What are the permanent changes and the temporary changes you see because of these phases? Pushpa has articulated really well, both from the consumer's point of view as well as from the developer's point of view. Yeah. I'm sure it will be similar, but what do you see is permanent here to stay, and what do you think may reduce over time?
See, I think obviously if we are going to make any design changes in the mall, that's going to be permanent. The good part is that, for instance, what we have seen is that when it comes to F&B, right, the stores that have a lot of alfresco space, for instance, are doing far better than the stores that are indoors and maybe even the food court. So it's very obvious that customers are preferring alfresco F&B, even though it means that they need to pay a little more and it's fine dining. So I feel that from a design standpoint, when developers build malls in the future, there will be a lot more focus on design, especially in terms of creating an outdoor space for people to come and get some fresh air too. There will also be a lot of investment, I think, in the HVAC systems, because whether COVID is here to stay or not, the fact that viral infections will continue to be on the rise will remain. So I feel that a lot of developers will start investing heavily into their HVAC systems, because air filtration will become a key point. Because, the whole issue with or perception that, hey, malls are not safe, hotels are not safe, restaurants are not safe, is because it was a closed space. And because previous air filters were filtering only up to, say, 2.5 microns. And this COVID virus, was at a particular level of, say, 0.1 or 2 microns. So I think the filters, air filtration, we'll have to invest a lot more into air filters and ensure that they sort of are able to filter out even these very tiny 0.1 to 0.2 micron level particles. And obviously, I think things like, masks and Sanitization will probably continue. I think that industry will see a boom for some time to come. There are a lot of new products in terms of automation of sanitization. Maybe it won't be so manual. There'll be a lot of automated products in terms of how escalators can be sanitized without anybody having to wipe it down, how seats can be automatically sanitized. So those will be some of the trends that will probably be here to stay, because I don't think viruses are going anywhere. Maybe this particular one has died down, thankfully, because nobody has seen the resurgence of the third wave, thankfully, just as yet. But of course, smaller trends like social distancing, and I think as Pushpa mentioned, this whole fact that limiting the number of people entering the stores, all those are temporary changes, but whatever investment into capital expenses will be more permanent. And I mentioned the two that I thought will be here to stay. And the third one I think that is here to stay is overall digitalization. And I think that if even before COVID, right, I think we saw digitization happen, whether it was through more online payments, whether it was more online shopping. I think that trend had already started pre-COVID. COVID just sort of, further catalyzed this whole digitization process, and it has just spurred on the need. It's not a nice to have anymore. It's a must have if you want to survive. So I would say those would be the three permanent ones I would see.
Great. I think, Nirupa, that's, I think you put it very concisely. Just coming back to Ganesh, I just had a pre-talk with you and we were mentioning that, you've taken this digitalization to at least 25-30% of your stores, etc. So I think what are the changes which you did, which should be permanent, and what will be temporary from your perspective, from a retailer's perspective?
From a retailer's perspective and from our perspective, the way we look at it is that when the pandemic started, there was a big belief, there was a big wave around casualization, etc. And what we have seen and what I've personally seen, which evolved over a period of time, is that there was a lot of Zoom meetings and other meetings, video meetings, which started with, say, a casual round collar t-shirt. And slowly as we moved on, I think people graduated towards wearing. So today, for example, I am in different meetings. I don't see people coming in a very casual attire. There is a need to feel good. There is a need to dress up, even if they are working from home or as the offices reopen, the hybrid model starts kicking in. So from that point of view, I think what is there to stay is the need for us as human beings to feel good, and dressing up is one of the ways to make us feel good. So that's there to stay. I think that's not going to change. Yes, how I experience it, how I'm going to go and acquire that sort of a experience is where there will be a adoption. I'm not going to use the word change deliberately, because India is a big country. The physical and the digital channel both has enough space and opportunity to play and grow together. So it is not an either or opportunity here. It's something that will be there. People want to get into a digital space when they know they are sure about what they are buying. For example, if they are buying a electronic product whose specification is there, I've seen with a friend, everything is there. So then I can actually go and buy it digitally. It's all at a click, I can connect. But if I'm somebody who likes, I'll use our products as a reference point. For example, I talk about shirting fabrics. Even if I can go to specifying it, say, for example, a Giza cotton, Supima cotton, or a linen, there are different thread counts which are used. Some people like very fine fabric, some people like thick fabric. Now, those are areas which cannot be specified. The fineness and thickness are very relative, contextual feeling that someone needs to do. So that's where the physical channel comes in. But standard products, the digitization is there to stay. I think all of us can see in our own day-to-day buying, a lot of stuff which we used to do physically has moved towards digital. So that's there to stay. The third aspect is all about experience. I think in India, shopping, going to the malls, going to retail shops, whether it is in high street or malls, is by and large a family activity or activity with friends. There is a lot of socializing which happens around it. And that's where people are missing. And that's where we are seeing that the moment post the second wave, if I look at stores, in fact, some of our stores in some markets are actually doing at 110, 150% of what we did in 2019. So it's already that behavior is coming back. And even if I remove the growth or the ticket value or the basket size, still there is a significant bounce back that is coming in. So we cannot say that everything can move to digital. But of course, there is going to be a change in terms of what consumers want to buy on the digital frame versus what they want to experience on the physical frame. So those are some.
I think that's really well put. But what I liked best, and this one word I liked best, was adoption and not change. I think that's really sums up a lot of change. And we have been telling change, and defining change and redefining, but it's all about adoption. And both it's omni-channel is here to stay. So I think that's a great takeaway from this conversation. Mukesh, I just want you to keep brief and tell me what are the categories which you see have had a higher resurgence or a larger request for space in your center, and then maybe we'll go to the next topic under these things. So if we can just stick to the categories and tell us what do you see as a next growth spurt because of these changes.
Thanks, Ranshu. Before I talk about this category, let me just tell you just in one line, what is here to say the shopping malls. So there was a talk that what will happen to shopping malls. There's a talk what will happen when the online shopping starts, we're giving discount, what will happen to shopping malls. No, they are here to stay. In fact, what is happening in this is a blessing in disguise. People started expecting malls to open so that the economy is opened up. So today we say mall khul gaye kya. That means everything is opened up. So there's you start celebrating, malls have come up. So keeping that, now let's talk about the category, but your basic question about...
I just love this one-liner. I should have started my sentence by telling malls are here to stay. But that was a good one.
Going back to the categories, let me tell you across. So if you look at the first lockdown, there's a lot of stress on formal wear, footwear. There's a lot of stress. But after the second lockdown, what you realize, even there's no stress on that as well. Only stress what you're facing today is about the travel gear, a bit of kids wear, and you have there's one more category which I think sorry. Somebody said something.
Family entertainment and cinemas.
No, I think that's also picking up. That's also very specific. That's very specific. FEC, maybe some center may not be, if you look at the last year after lockdown, FEC did pretty well. In fact, they almost came back to 70%. Then again, we had to close. And please mind you, it was only open for 2 months. Not from in Maharashtra, FEC opened in the month of December, and they again had to close down by end of March. So in 2 months itself, they reached almost 70-75%. It also depends on what category, what kind of entertainment you are providing to the customers in the mall. Overall, I think what is really struggling today is these two. Number two is very important to understand. After the second lockdown, I have noticed the way digital the sales are going so high, that is kind of established. It's not going up any further. If you look at last year when the mall started, I saw a lot of sales happening in Chroma, digital, those kind of stores. But I think that kind of has reached the plateau now. I don't think it's really going up. So that's experience in my mall. I'm not talking about other malls. Maybe some other malls doing better.
Mukesh, contextually, I would like to add that, when you go year on year or month on month, you sometimes take a base which is not relevant. If your shopping center industry is closed and you take that as the base and you say digital is 80% of shopping.
No, I'm talking store to store. I'm looking at like to like from 2019 to 2020 or 21. I'm looking at from these 3 years only. So the growth that we saw in 2020 was very, very high for this category. But I think some of this plateau now after the second lockdown, what I've noticed really not going up so much. Number two, what I've seen is that the large formats have started doing very well, because people feel more comfortable there. So I think that's going to grow. But what I've also been noticing that a lot of stores, they've been asking for larger spaces because they realized when you have a smaller space, you can't possibly get the social distancing. So you look for a little larger store. That also started happening. But category, the stress is really big stress about your travel gear and the kids, which I have realized. But kids I've started seeing that you can start opening up now also. It was pretty bad till a few months back. They started picking up now. F&B was under a lot of stress. That also I've seen they've started growing now. A lot of smaller guys are completely wiped out from the system. They have to come back. The smaller retailers, they had kiosk format, QSR format, the restaurant format for that matter. Almost 30% of the restaurant business have almost closed down. They need to bounce back. That can only happen when they have the capital. So that's again one category which not is doing very well. But a lot of businesses, they have shut down. It may take some time for them to revive. So I think barring this, I think generally I could see across the board, I think things are really getting better and all the categories have started doing well.
Great. I think a good, concise summary on all fronts. And this takes us to the next part of it, which is the physical shopping. And I want to bring in Rajesh here to explain or maybe drive home the point of what has been Lacoste's experience on the physical shopping and how does it see the consumer coming in physically rather than online. So Rajesh, do you want to tell us a little bit about that journey for yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Shubhranshu, and hello, everybody. It's a pleasure being here. So before I talk about the digital journey, I would also like to take you back to a little 2-3 years back that you started with the Shubhranshu. So 2-3 years back, we all realized that online has started growing. The contribution of online had started growing in the sales. However, offline was either stable or it's degrowing also in some cases. What this pandemic did is, when there was a lockdown, obviously online started shooting up like anything because all the malls and all these physical stores were closed and nobody was able to visit. So they started shopping online. That actually reinforced the idea in many retailers that yes, online is here to stay and that is the future. However, when lockdown started lifting, especially after the second wave, then we really realized that people have started thronging back to the malls and the physical stores because now they wanted that touch and feel. They wanted that affiliation. They wanted to see the fit of the product that they are seeing. And above all, the socialization is one of the most important factors that they realize that they need to come back and socialize with each other. This actually has reinforced the belief in offline also. Now, if you see, the share of online has started coming back to the normal levels and offline has also started growing. So earlier, the thought that was giving way to online, now it has started moving towards the fact that online and offline both will be here, they will coexist and they will remain, at least in a country like India, for a very, very long period of time. Now, given this background, if you see the phygital experience.
I thought that was the answer. That was the background.
Yeah, that was, so I'll tell you about the phygital point also, and that touches upon some bit of omni-channel perspective as well. So first of all, I think all the developers, all the retailers, we all know that customers want a superlative experience. Wherever they go to a premium mall or to any other physical stores, they want a superlative experience, but the journey does not end there. They also want upgradation from time to time in that superlative experience. And that is where phygital, the combination of both online and offline, come in very, very handy. If you see those customers who want convenience, they want ease, they want shopping anywhere, for certain categories, they would like to go and buy it online. And on the other side, when they want experience, when they want touch and feel, socialization, etc., they would go and buy it offline also. This is where a new technology, although it's not new anymore, it's been there for last couple of years, at least in India, which is omni-channel, which is making inroads. Now, omni-channel, it typically means that you buy anywhere, pay anywhere, you pick anywhere, you get it delivered at home. Here, I would say that there is a nuance here which varies from category to category. So if you look at those categories which are off the shelf, standard product where you don't have to touch and feel, these are very, very standardized products. People would love to buy it either online or they go to a store, and if they don't find their right kind of product or the product that they're looking for, they will place the order and get it delivered at their home or maybe pick it from some other place. But there are certain categories, like for example, premium fashion. In case of premium fashion, what we have experienced is that customers, if they want to physically go to the store, so first of all, they need to go to physically at the stores. If they touch and feel the store, they would also like to try out the products. If they find the fit very good, if they find the product is looking very good on them, they would like to immediately own it. They would not like to wait for omni-channel to have it delivered to their home or to buy it from some other place. However, there are some carryover products which the customers would just buy as a standard product also. So the phygital journey, when we talk about, including the omni-channel, online and offline, another angle, and this is the last thing that I would like to say in this question, is that multi-channel is extremely important. Now the customers are not looking at you and going to the destination to buy, unless it's, let's say it's a destination shopping of a jewelry or a wedding ethnic wear kind of a thing. They would like to buy your product anywhere and with convenience. So in my view, future lies in multi-channel and omni-channel. Online and offline are part of this journey, and this is going to stay.
That's a great topic you touched, and I think you touched on an interesting thing, and I want to twist that word. You spoke about socialization, and how do I twist it? Let's say socialization is what you told, coming in the mall and being seen, and let's shift to Pushpa. And Pushpa, I want to take on the thought about digital socialization and how DLF or maybe Pushpa Vector is driving the socialization journey from a digital point of view. Just to give you the context or maybe explain it. A consumer today, the millennial today, wants to be seen, liked, Facebook, Instagram. They've got various mediums to be seen, liked, associated, or socializing. We understand the physical socialization, which Rajesh mentioned. I don't want you to go into that. But how is a mall developer like you participating in the consumer's digital social journey? How are you engaging? How are you integrating? And how are you being visible there? But keep it short.
So, Shubhranshu, this is not new to DLF, right? I would like to tell you that this whole social communities that DLF had started way back 15 years. When I took over retail and started building malls, the first thing that we started doing then was Facebook. Facebook was the thing to have, create a community on Facebook, announce it, any kind of promotion, any store launch, announce it through Facebook. And we did that pretty well over 2-3 years. Then came, of course, Instagram, LinkedIn. Today, it's really the social community that you have built across the properties and across all our mediums. DLF Malls has got a strong LinkedIn platform. It's got a very, very strong Instagram platform, which is property specific. But, today we are engaging with Facebook and Instagram at a very serious strategic level to see how we can take this even further. For example, Instagram has got great, brands that have come up during COVID. How can we engage with those brands which have become very popular during COVID? So what we are trying to say is that as far as communities go, the idea would be to create various communities, be it through my Lookout app. Lookout is another app that we have developed, which is our unified app. I've got over 600,000 people engaged with me directly through the Lookout app. We intend to take that even further through our loyalty program. That's one aspect. The second is, of course, the Instagram. Third is LinkedIn. Fourth is Facebook. Facebook has become kind of less relevant because Instagram has taken over the fashion and people would like to be seen more on Instagram or engage more on Instagram. And we would also look at how do we create social commerce through Instagram now. So there are options which are there to swipe up. If there is a lovely look that a customer sees, coming out of DLF Promenade, they should be able to swipe up and block that look. So we are going 2 steps ahead on engagement with the customers through these social handles. From a marketing angle, what we have really tried to do, the marketing strategy has gone completely digital now.
Okay.
It was earlier, which was much more through press ads, etc. The past 2-3 years, we've seen more traction through the digital journey. What we are trying to do is engage with, we've actually got a brand ambassador, so to speak, and we've got, and she is a digital influencer. So the influencers have become much more relevant to the mall communities, be it makeup. So we engage with a very popular makeup artist who's an influencer. who engages with the customers and then brings in for masterclasses, etc. And then there are, what we try to do for our different collections is engage with a multitude of micro influencers who are, who've got their own, they need not have 1 million followers. Even if they have geo-targeted followers of 500,000, but they are relevant to my South Delhi consumers, we engage with them and they become the brand ambassadors for that particular season. And in terms of marketing, so they become our newspaper, so to speak. So I think those are the changes that we are seeing happening in the digital journey. The third is, of course, they are also enrolling entertainment through, creating engaging reels, which is what a customer likes to watch. Millennials love watching new kinds of reels. We also look at comedy influencers coming in and creating that impact for our customers. So what I'm trying to tell you is the digital spaces are the spaces that we're using to engage with customers, A, and B, also to influence them, both.
So Nirupa, just moving to you and maybe to see what's Brigade done in being a part of the consumer's journey. I know Pushpa already mentioned the mall's journey. I assume you would be doing 100% or 70% or 80% of it. And that's been the works for like 5-10 years. I just want something innovative where you are engaging with the consumer's journey, because today the consumer is going and standing in every corner and clicking a photo and saying, I was here, I ate this, my neighbor brought this, then I bought this, and all those kind of things. The mall participate.
Yeah. So I'll just mention 3 points on this. The first one is, when as a mall developer, when you focus on the aesthetics and the decor of the mall and any upgrade, what we are consciously doing is creating very innovative artworks or sculptures or spaces, so that the customers can have their selfie points. Because while it's and the important part is, when you create those selfie points, make sure that the lighting is good, because if you make people look good, then they're willing to post those pictures and tag you in there. So the most important thing I would actually say is lighting also, because when people look good, they're happy to post those pictures and tag you in there. So we are focusing a lot on the lighting of the mall in order to help the customer sort of, look good in their pictures. The second part is, when you connect with the customers, we're doing it through these, not just your regular bloggers, but micro bloggers. They target certain communities. Like some bloggers are just known for makeup, or some bloggers are known for their fashion sense and how they put together items. So targeting them to sort of connect with the customers. So we invite them to the mall and ask them to give them some budget to spend in the mall, and then have them sort of talk about that. And the third part is actually a pretty new concept. So we actually run an accelerator program to mentor startups in the real estate PropTech space. And we are actually in our 10th batch. And in our 10th cohort, we came across this retail startup called Light Store. And what they do is they basically create a white box space. So we've actually given them an entire store. And what they do is they white box the whole thing. So if a new brand wants to enter the city, they can actually set up a store. They can take it for 2 months or 1 month or 15 days or 30 days, whatever it is. And what these guys do is they live stream what's happening in the store on social media platforms. So for instance, a brand from Bombay or Delhi wants to check out or even internationally wants to check out the Bangalore market or a particular micro market, they can take the space for just 3 months, see what the response is, and then decide whether they want a larger space or not. And ideally, this works for brands that are not yet in the country and they're just sort of product testing. And then this store actually live streams it on all the various social media platforms, so people know what kind of products there are. And eventually, technology will be used in terms of what is the dwell time for each customer that comes into the mall, which are the products that people are more interested in. A lot of consumer behavioral analytics and product analytics that can be created through that. So those were the 3 points I wanted.
I think Nirupa, this is exactly what I wanted. Some different things so that people can learn. Great things. I just like the microblogger and the accelerator idea as well.
Yeah.
I hope all of you have noticed that we already got a Delhi opinion and a Bangalore opinion. So now Mukesh, over to you to tell us something new from Bombay.
So as far as your media expense is concerned today, till 3-4 years back, we used to spend most of money on the print media, but that has completely changed. In fact, in the past 2 years, what we have noticed that it's no more Facebook, it's more of Instagram. How do you get influencers to the mall, and how do you expose all your brands of what's happening in the mall? Even comes in events also. We have a lot of events in the mall, which basically any festival that happens in the country or in the city, we make sure it's also celebrated in the mall. It's not only having something in the mall, it's very important to reaching out to people, letting them know. So using all the social media platforms to reach out to people. How do you do that? We get even not only just the mall, even we also tell the brands to bring the own influencer, come to the mall, shoot all this and put this on Instagram or the Facebook post. So what happens, it's not only, as I said, it's not only just doing something, it's also how to tell people, how to reach out to people. So we are doing this through the social media platforms. Instagram become a very, very important tool. Your LinkedIn, your Twitter, all these mediums are being used to reach out to a lot of people. And basically, how do you get those people first to the mall? Only when they come to the place, then they can start shopping. Number two, also, what also happened, there are a lot of people, they may not be your mall shoppers per se, but they still want to come because they want to enjoy the atmosphere and environment, the event that is being conducted. So we also do some events which not really targeting a shopper. It's just to bring in people so that at least they know they may not be a customer too, they may become your customer after some time. Maybe you have some customer, they only do shopping, only grocery, or they only go to the food court, or only go to the theater. But once you bring them in and use the entire space of the mall, entire common area space of the mall, expose them. As Nirupa said about those doing some arts and crafts and doing some selfie points, these are very important tools. People want to be seen. So we do, when you do our events, we not only just do in the atrium, we also do in the food court. We also do in the common area. We we do some flea market. We make sure it's also reach out to people, again, through social media. Like for Diwali, what we do, we get stuff which is only sold during Diwali time. So we have dedicated spaces for such festivals and those things to be sold within the mall, because there are people, there's a community, they don't want to go out and do shopping. They only want to come to the mall. So how do we communicate this? So all the social media platforms are being used to communicate this to the people.
Great. I think, Mukesh, that sums up all over the country from this perspective, at least. So Ganesh, I just want to bring you quickly in to tell us the 4 pillars and a little bit briefly about how Raymond's is going through its technology and digitalization around the 4 pillars which you were mentioning earlier.
So let me take a quick minute on why these 4 pillars are relevant, because from a consumer point of view, as a retailer, there are 3 areas which we focus on, which is experience, unique value proposition, and convenience, which is eliminating friction points in the consumer buying journey. Now, when we talk of these 3 points, what we are also expecting to build is a seamless, consistent experience across channels. Like Rajesh mentioned earlier, that all channels have a play in the market and they're relevant and they are there to stay. So if that is true, and consumer going to a store is experiencing Raymond as a brand, so how can we make sure that it is consistent all across? So from those 3 principles, we came down to what do we need to do. The first was everything about data. When we talk of digitization, when we talk of consumer insights, it's all about data. It's about how do we capture data, how do we get insights out of the data, how do we take the insights and convert it into an experience for the consumer. So the first stage was about how do we build that data, and that's where the entire master data management and the governance program came into place. So that's the first step which we are working. The second is we already have an existing physical store. We are probably one of the largest retailers with presence in over 600 towns in the country. So if that is the case, then how do we help them to get into the digital space? So that's the area where we are operating on a certain degree of digital POS, but it comes with its own limitations in the 21st century. So what is it that we need to do? So we are upgrading that into a device, which is again going back to experience, value proposition, and convenience. So the 3 areas, how can we capture data? How can we make sure that those data help us in rendering these 3 aspects to the consumer? The third area is about, these are data which is captured externally from the consumer over different places, but we also have internal data. We need to have an integration of this entire system. And that is where the upgradation of our ERP which comes in. which is relevant to fashion. Raymond was one of the earliest companies to get into an ERP in the fashion textile space. And today, what we are looking at is we adopted a generic ERP into our business. But today, the business has also evolved. We have got learnings all through. So how can we get a fashion-specific ERP for us? So that's the third area which we are working. The fourth aspect, which is very, very critical, which is also an adoption, and I will go back to the word here, Subhranshu, which is change in mindset, is essentially in terms of how do we start right from design or mind to shelf on the digital platform? What is it that we can do to enable? Can it happen overnight? No, it is not something which will happen overnight, but it will go through a certain stage of evolution as we see. And we are already seeing that in the international clients where we are able to design products digitally and show to them on a digital trade show. They're able to see what does it that mean, and then they shortlist and we sell the swatches or the samples for them to see the color, fabric, texture, finish, etc. So that's the fourth area of the product PLM, as we call it, as product lifecycle management. How do we build the entire gamut? Now, while we are doing all of this, there is also a principle when we get into digital business is that, first of all, is it addressing a consumer need? B, is it scalable? As we move into, say, 3 years, 5 years, when we finish the pilot, can we scale it up? And then C is, if it is scalable, then how are we democratizing some of the, today, going to a tailor, and during pandemic, it was very, very evident, going to a tailor master and getting yourself measured was probably the most frightful activity for the consumer. So is there a way we can digitize some of those operations? And that's where we are bringing in. And Raymond is actually sitting on a very unique position. We have millions of consumer data in terms of measurements. And is there a way we can convert it into patterns? Because India is a heterogeneous country. And from an anthropological point of view, the body pattern of North is different from South, is different from East, is different from West. And within states, you have different regional characteristics for patterns. And in our business, converting a fabric to a garment, the pattern accuracy is the most significant or a success factor for us to drive. So those are the areas where we are building our capabilities. And I think Raymond is very well poised as we get into the next 3 to 5 year horizon.
I think that was a great amount of insight, very concise, I must say. And I think it brought out a lot of topics for leaving the listeners to think about. I'm sure a lot of retailers will take some insights and reach out to you separately on this. Moving on to our own, play, which we are trying to discover and learn here. Pushpa, to you, and then maybe to Mukesh. This omni-channel collaboration between the shopping center and the brands, is it really happening at a store level? And is real data sharing happening? I know you're delivering from the store, your goods are going out blind, everything is happening, and you have a process. Everybody has set a process now. I know some sharing arrangement is happening, but is data being shared with you? Are the retailers coming back and telling, hey, we delivered to, say, Ghaziabad from your shopping center here, or we delivered to these markets? Are you getting some benefit out of it to know which are the digital shoppers? And that's an important question to see. Is omnichannel wanting to grow with you and build on your consumer base? So a little bit more insights on, is the collaboration happening?
So, Shubhranshu, I think when it first started, I must be honest that all of us had a sense of fear. That are we driving away our consumers? Because eventually, developers, shopping centers draw in footfall. Are we, by encouraging last mile connectivity, drawing away that footfall? So when let me talk about when Zara started things online. This was way before COVID. Brands like Zara gave a couple of options. They said you can either pick it up from the store or you can get it delivered home. We found that a large number of customers, a good 20-25% of their online customers, preferred to pick it up from the store and try it, which is a very interesting twist to the tale. then what happens is the customer comes in, she picks it up from the store, she picks up a couple of other things. So we realized that the habit is going off to the mall is not going to go away. Now, let's talk about the other side. That is, there are some customers who have gone online. They, if the person is, say, at the Nykaa store, and Nykaa is already having a phenomenal presence online, and they've come in offline. Now, if they have a last mile connectivity through our store, we are frankly at this point experimenting this in a very limited fashion to see what's the percentage. Are we encouraging it? I would say, frankly, no.
So,
but are we looking at
interject
connectivity happening? The answer is yes.
Pushpa, just I would interject. I think
Sorry?
I would want to interject and ask you the real question which was behind this. That is Nykaa, I mean, because you said Nykaa, sharing the information of where these things are geographically.
Yeah, I'm coming to that, Shubhranshu. I'm coming to that. Now, when we engage with Nykaa, they are, or any other brand, they are very transparently sharing that, yes, we have reached 10%, last mile connectivity sales is up to 10% or 12%. And the POS, it's all going through our POS. So if it's going through the store POS, it's seamless, right? I'm getting the same revenue share that I would have got otherwise. But it's very important for a developer to understand that that last mile connectivity should not reach a tipping point. For example, in China, this has happened that multiple physical spaces started just becoming warehousing spots. We wouldn't want to encourage that aspect. But as long as there is healthy last mile connectivity, where it is still in single digits, it's 8% of the POS sale is coming through the last mile connectivity. It doesn't hurt anyone. And it's only value adding to my top line sale. Instead of them delivering it through their logistical warehouse, they're delivering it through our mall. But are we happy that it'll go beyond into double digit numbers? The answer is no, because our business is to draw in people and not to just use it like a facilitation spot to deliver. And I hope I'm making it very clear. But at the same time, we are engaging with the customers, with our retailers. They are being transparent about it because they also understand, and that's the change. They also understand it's important to draw in customers to their physical stores, to engage with them, on a human basis. Otherwise, what's going to happen is they lose their human interaction with their customers, and they don't want to do that. So we reached a spot where the engagement is transparent, and they themselves are not encouraging a large scale last mile connectivity. They also are drawing in. And I would like to understand from Rajesh also, what is his perspective on this whole thing as a retailer. I'm sure he would have his own take on this. And it'll be interesting to see and hear his take.
Yeah, we go over to Rajesh now. We'll come back to you, Mukesh, after Rajesh. Rajesh?
Okay. So, Pushpa, I agree with you and not agree with you on some points. So I'll tell you from a retailer's perspective how I feel is, see, if a customer is interested in buying things through omni-channel, there are two ways that he can buy. Either he can buy online and get it delivered directly to his home, or he can pick it from the malls. Or alternatively, he buys it from another shop and gets it delivered from, let's say, DLF mall. Now, typically what happens if some customer is buying online, he was not a physical customer anyway. So actually what happens if the things are getting built somewhere else, let's say either online or in a different mall or a different physical store and getting it delivered from DLF, typically what happens that a customer who was not your customer in the first place, he develops an affinity towards that mall because he thinks that this mall has delivered me this thing, so let me also go and check out this mall. In our case, obviously omnichannel, the contribution of omnichannel is very, very small. But despite that, I would say that omnichannel will actually bring in most customers to the mall because those customers were not coming to the mall in any case. So this is my take on this thing. I would like to add one more point here.
I just love it when you disagree on my show.
I wanted to introduce some spark. I knew Rajesh had a different viewpoint. Mukesh and I are on the same page.
No, you would be. So I
But
am also with you, because see, we are also predominantly physical store retailer, and we are present on online and omnichannel also. But as I said, our contribution is more from physical, and personally, I am for physical stores because they give the complete experience to the customers. They actually also present the brand in the right manner to the customer.
In the right way, exactly.
Yes,
So-
exactly. But what I'm saying is that that customer who was not my customer for a physical store in the first place, if he's buying from online or buying it from, let's say, another physical store and getting it delivered from my store in a particular shop, that customer indeed develops an affinity toward that store. Second, I would also like to add here, if you look at one of the yardsticks to measure that whether it is successful or not successful, is to see what are the returns from the customers. So when a customer buys from an offline store, whether through omnichannel or if he goes into the store, we see that the returns are very minimal. So the customer's affinity towards the physical store is much more as compared to online and omnichannel. If you go to online, let's say if we take our example, we have our own website called lacoste.in. The returns are higher as compared to physical door. But if you go to a third-party marketplace, where in select marketplaces we are also present, the returns are significantly higher. That clearly tells us that customers do have an affinity towards physical store, and the mall should not feel conscious about the fact that omnichannel is taking away their business. It could actually, in the long run, help the malls and the retailers generate more business from the same set of customers.
So Rajesh, I'm absolutely right. If I can end this by saying that our strategy is that there is a clear wait and watch till 31st March to see what is the trend. Is it in single digit? Is it in double digit? And then have a full-time policy, because right now we are in a situation of, during COVID, then there is a lot of interaction and disruption on both sides.
Ganesh, you wanted to come in? I'm just loving it when people started coming
Disagreeing.
Right.
More
No,
opinions
there
on
is
this.
They provide different perspective, I would say.
Right,
I mean,
there
we
is
all are collaborating
a
anyway.
point of view which is worth for all of us to introspect. We are looking at this more from an here and now, pandemic, post-pandemic point of view. Let's just step back and look at it more from a consumer's point of view, and especially from a Gen Z point, people who are actually growing. These children who are there, say 12, 14, 15, 16 years, they are not interested in going to mall for shopping. At least I can say my daughters, they would never come with us if we have to buy something. They'll say that you guys go and do whatever you want to shop. It's so boring as an activity. But they are always on the digital platform. Now, there is a way for us, because we have customers who are serving our need for today, next 10 years, and that's something which we are keeping analyzing. What about customer acquisition for the future, which is the 25 years, 30 years? And this is something which is also coming from our perspective, because Raymond is a 95, 96-year-old company. In 2025, we would celebrate the centenary. But I am seeing a clear demarcation in consumer acquisition. So this is where, if online is the way we can reach out to them, talk to them, then how can we bring them, get the initial conversation and bring them to the store? Because once they come to the store, they are not looking at only one option. They're saying, oh, I bought this, but I could have explored this and that. And the same theory applies for malls, because then mall is not only about one store, it is about a cauldron of categories, brands, etc. So it gives them a different experience. Slowly that adoption may happen. Otherwise, we will lose this consumer.
Ganesh, after your point of view, I do have a question for you. And it is because you are so, thinking towards the future, and I become to our future and visioning session where, and I'll keep it very brief because I want to see everybody's future thoughts. What are the new avenues where retailers and developers can engage in the journey in the future? So is there something new which you can think which is not being done now and you want, a developer to collaborate? For example, Rajesh clearly mentioned one thing that, it's not, it's positive, it is value additive. It's more footfalls. So
Yeah.
what is it that you want the developer to participate with you in the journey of the future, on the digital journey of the future?
So let's look at it from a very, again, first principle point of view. Whether it is a mall developer or a retailer, all of us are striving towards getting more footfalls, either into the mall or into the store. Okay. And then, of course, the brand works on conversion, the offerings works on conversion. Now, from a mall perspective, I think a lot of activity is being done. But what is more important is how do we create the entire experience for the consumer, which I said about the first three things, which is about experience, value proposition, and convenience. Okay. Now, one is brand can give to a certain extent, but at least in Bombay, I can say when I have to wait for getting into the parking for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, it becomes an irritant. Okay. And one of the malls did a good thing. They said that you don't have to bring your car. We will have a vehicle coming to your condominium every 45 minutes. Okay, you can just come in, and the departure is also every 45 minutes. So for a long time, most of us did not even bother about taking the car. But it is about getting people over there, because once people come to the mall, and this is my strong belief, they don't restrict to one category for which they have gone there. Then they also like to browse, they also like to explore. And it is also with the increasing purchasing power that people like to indulge in a bit. So for me, it's all about how do we get the footfalls back, whether it is through digital, experiential, or creating unique value proposition for the malls. A few years back, for an example, kids play area was one of the raving thing. And Pushpa, I know because I used to live in Gurgaon. And right from the days when MGF mall was the only, MGF and the city center, DLF city center, these were two malls over there. So right from there, today we are talking of huge promenade and all the other areas. But how can we give attraction across age groups to come and engage in the malls? I think that's going to be a significant.
That is the question forever. I think we'll not address that here because
we won't address. We will always keep on evolving with changing needs of the consumers.
Yeah.
There was a time when creche was needed. There was a time when kids play area was needed. Today we are talking of movie, entertainment, food, and shopping, all three clubbed into one. Yes. And there'll be a next stage to it.
What are the major gaps in connecting the offline and online experience? Have you thought about it? Would you want to share a couple of points? And if anybody wants to come in, it's important for us to elaborate and voice and present the gaps on the table so somebody will address it.
One issue I found during the lockdown period was, when there were some stores that were a little more forward with their online platform. Of course, a lot of the MNCs and the fast fashion brands like Zara, H&M did crazy amounts of online sales during the lockdown. But one thing I had wanted to do with the retailers was to, create an inventory or a platform on our own website where all the stores in our mall could actually keep their inventory live. And then customers could actually just come to the mall website and see which stores are delivering or which stores are selling and what is the inventory. But I mean, that would have been a really great way to continue sales online, even though there was a lockdown period. But I think logistically and administratively, there was an issue. First, because it required real-time data on inventory. Then all the inventory had to be uploaded on the website. So that would require a lot of manpower. But I don't know how, but that would be a great way to help the customer, I feel. I mean, I know we've gone through 2 lockdowns and hopefully we never go through any more lockdowns.
Nirupa, just let me rephrase this, and I'm sorry to interject.
Yeah, sure.
I love interjecting, by the way, but I'm apologizing anyway. So what you're trying to tell that as a shopping center, you would like to have a mall, digital mall, where the product is showcased. Yeah. So the shopping center also is online. Yes. But you want it interactive and live, so the real inventory is reflecting there, which is what the omni-channel does.
Yes. But see, now if a customer wants something, right, then they have to go to individual brand websites. They might be familiar with your mall and all the stores in the mall, but I think that would facilitate better buying as well. Otherwise, right now, when you go, if you talk about one of the fast fashion brands.
I've got your point. I'll bring Rajesh in. Rajesh, you have an online site. Would you integrate your online store with Nirupa's shopping center so that your store in Nirupa's center will reflect on the online whenever anybody goes to the center?
See, so Shubhranshu, I completely agree with Nirupa on this. It is not the question of what I want or what I don't want. What I see as future for collaboration between the mall developers and retailers is this. See, online gives you ease of shopping, convenience, anytime, anywhere. Offline gives you a complete experience. Now, these two things need to gel somewhere. They need to collaborate each other and come together. I think one of the best methods of that collaboration of coming together could be what Nirupa just said, that if the entire shopping mall is also online, and that facilitates the customer to either visit the store online or offline. Store, when I say the mall, complete mall, online or offline, and the collaboration between retailers and developers is such that the customer gets complete experience and ease also. So this is how I see the future. It's not a question of what I want today, because there could be certain brand guidelines, there could be some mall guidelines, they may or may not match today, but I do believe that future is going to be in this direction only. And another method of collaboration, which to some extent is already going on, is the joint marketing activities, and not located only within the mall. It could expand to outside the mall also, where the retailers and developers, whenever they go on advertising, and as Mukesh also rightly said, and a lot of other people also said the same thing, that now it's the digital marketing that everybody is turning to. There are very few people who would go in for print advertisement or a traditional advertisement, because digital advertisements allows you to do targeted marketing that allows you to reach out to the exact customer that you're looking for. Now, future again I see here is that there would be a lot of collaboration between the malls and retailers to do joint marketing activities, to do joint omni-channel activities. You had raised a question about sharing of data. Today, there's a possibility that that sharing of data is not happening in a transparent manner. This is also because of the fact that even if there is a shared data, what will we do with that data? End of the day, we all know that online people, they are more equipped to handle that data. Retailers and malls do have data, but they don't even know what to do with that data. But I believe that future lies in that sharing of data and utilizing, analyzing the data in such a manner that all the parties, either the developers or the retailers and the consumer, they all benefit from this.
Sorry, just to add to what Rajesh said, right? Once you have that data, like you were saying, okay, what do you do with that data? See, one of the biggest trends why Amazon has been so successful, or why, say, a Spotify has been so successful, is because of its suggestions tool, right? You say, okay, I have, this person has bought this, but people who bought this also bought something else, so you might like this based on your past buying. And that's a way of upselling for retailers as well. Currently, unless a store sales executive at a store is trained to upsell, they don't really upsell. They say, how can I help you? And you say, hey, I have everything I need, and that's the end of that. But with online, if things, you can actually suggest to people what would go well with this. Like I've seen it on some of the international websites where, say, I buy a top and it says, okay, hey, this hat will also go well with the outfit, or buy these sunglasses if you're buying beachwear. So that's what you can do to actually upsell and improve your sales as well.
Yeah,
that's a good point. That's a
I
good
think
point.
it's if I can
just going
chip
to
in
come
here.
to next, but I wanted to ask you a specific question.
What?
It's on the same topic, but I wanted to ask it. So my question is that I know you also had this DLF online platform which you were creating. How has the journey been so far, and have the retailers been supportive? Like, Rajesh says it has to be collaborative, it will be collaborative, we will support. How has your journey been so far? Because I think you are ahead of everybody on this.
Yeah. So when we started the app journey, frankly, we started it with a focus of trying to engage with our end customers. That was our first objective, because we were increasingly engaging through retailers, and the need to engage with end customers was very high. That was our principal objective. So what we are trying to do in that journey is, have the retailers been proactive? Yes. Did they collaborate with us to create lookbooks on that online platform? Yes. But this requires a lot more than just a seasonality of lookbooks. It requires more depth. It requires Why will a customer, you look at it from a customer's point of view, Shubhranshu, you have 100 apps on your phone already. You want a DLF app to come in. We've got these 500 customers that we are engaged with, and we're seeing that the engagement ratio really drops down or dwindles down unless and until there is a very, very compelling proposition. So to me, as a developer, the only compelling proposition without getting into the complete e-commerce space is having an extremely powerful loyalty program. And that will be our next step through this app. And the loyalty program will help both the retailers, because we are already getting lots of things from the retailers as part of our contract. That's the right way to engage with both the retailer and the customer as a next step in the omni-channel approach. To us, that's the right omni-channel approach. We are not, as DLF, going to be an e-commerce company. We are not going to give another Amazon. It just doesn't make sense.
I think you did mention this, but one thing I think I want to again go back to it. Sorry.
Shubhranshu, can I make a couple of points here, 2, 3 topics what we just discussed?
One question.
One is about omni-channel.
Yeah.
You can hear, right?
Yes, I can hear.
Number one is about the omni-channel. I remember 3-4 years back, we started developing an app where all the stores can put the inventory in the store, all the brands. Customer has the flexibility to go to the app and block a product. Don't buy it, block a product and come to the store to pick it up. Idea is to get people to the store rather than sending all these things by delivery. Idea is to get people to the mall. I think a lot of retailers really accepted the idea, because they also said rather give them little extra incentive for customer to come to the store. If you block a product for, let's say, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, depending on we left it on the retailers. That worked pretty well. Unfortunately, it didn't really take off very much because again we got into COVID and shops got closed and there's some bug with the app itself. But that was the way to go, making sure that people look at products available in each of the store and block it. Then you bring it to the mall. Number 2 is about we will not be able to compete with any of these online players, whether it is Amazon or Flipkart, Myntra. We can't compete. That's not our strength. Our strength is physical shopping. What has been our strength? To get people to the mall and give them the experience. Now, how do you complement this with the digital platform also? Now, today, everybody wants convenience. When you talk convenience, it's also about digital convenience. That means before coming to the mall, he knows exactly what he's going to buy. Then he adds something extra also to it. So that is the whole idea. So what is our strength? Physical shopping. We should work on our strength rather than competing with Amazon. Number 3 is about getting those data from different consumers. If you get the data from the retailer, how is it going to help us? One is that to reach out. When I have the data, I know who to reach out to. I know which category is selling more, which category is, what is the season today, whether it is F&B or a casual wear or a theater or FEC or luggage. So we can categorize. Number 4 is about loyalty. How do we really work on this loyalty? That Pushpa said, the loyalty is very, very important today. Today, if you look at most of the hotel business or airline, they work so effectively with the loyalty points. So moment you buy something, the loyalty points gets added to your account. We are trying to develop something very similar. That moment you buy something in the POS itself, the loyalty points gets added. It benefits the retailer also, and it benefits the shopping center also, because we're able to do target marketing. We're able to get people. That's the whole idea of doing this loyalty program. If you can get your points right at the point of sale, then you're creating that loyalty. Today, we have close to 300,000 people in our program. But unfortunately, there's so many things in this, you're not able to achieve what exactly you want to achieve. But that's the whole idea for us to achieve. Like get everybody to want to buy something, your point gets added right then and there. You don't have to run to a customer service desk to get to points added, because that defeats the entire purpose. Once that happens, I think it's a win-win situation for the retailer as well as for the mall.
Yeah.
I think that Pushpa, you want to add something before I...
Yeah, I just want to tell you only one thing, that the consumer is going to have discovery digitally and then come in for physical shopping. The digital discoverability is here to stay forever, and so in that discoverability, how much is a shopping center to be relevant in the discoverability is the challenge that we all have, which we need to come up with a solution, be it through lookbooks, be it whatever mechanisms that we have in the discoverability journey. Then the ability to pull people online. The last but not the least I'd like to say is that the millennials or Gen Z or, Gen X, etc., for them, F&B is the key to engage with them offline. They love to have, impromptu do's, any kind of community sessions, etc. They are in a different zone of discoverability when it comes to food. So to me, food is a new fashion where there is no question that offline will be the only space where food can really be, in terms of being on the forefront of, creating new experiences. We are there. And DLF, we have invested up to 25% to 30% in F&B, seeing this trend. So then shopping becomes an ancillary activity, which also happens because shopping has got a lot of plus along with it, and food becomes a driver. And that is what I would like to end the whole thing with from my side.
I think that was a lovely...
Pushpa, I agree with you on this point, for sure.
And I have noted it down. Food is the new fashion and shopping is accepted. But I just wanted to summarize and have a few food for thought. I think we got a lot of interesting points covered. I don't want it to drop. So I'll just summarize, and they will not be full form sentences. It will be words, that there are gaps. And this is exactly what I was looking for. What are the gaps in the engagement of online and offline? So I think one is, I think I heard Nirupa say that the shopping center or the digital shopping center and the retailer together should push and upsell. Second, Pushpa mentioned, and a few others also mentioned, the looks and the look book. And then there was somebody who mentioned live inventory, that, a shopping center's
Nirupa
is live inventory. And, Rajesh mentioned that I can plug in, or I could want to plug in, or maybe that's a journey to go through. And then I picked up two words from someone which said categorize, and, like I think Mukesh had said, categorize the need, or categorize the consumer and build loyalty. So a loyalty program. These are the exact words or keywords around which the future digital strategy looks really, really interesting, because then what it will become, it's all surrounding the consumer. It's all building around his affiliation, his needs, trying to upsell him. And I think food can be the new fashion and drive him in, but he can do the discovery because of these aspects of it, which you are trying to push. Maybe, Pushpa, the next thing is not storefront, that can you give us a new storefront for my new center, but will you give me a lookbook every time you have a new inventory, and can I have real-time inventory at the store level, so that one who comes to my app or somebody puts in a color on my app knows that these 5 stores have the color real time.
Yeah.
So interesting things, a lot of food for thought, a good journey. I think we are running out of time, but I would love to have 2 sentences from anyone who wants to speak. So 5 of us, 2 sentences. Please go ahead and tell me something about the future.
Shubhranshu, as far as the malls are concerned today, with so much of trust being established with the consumers, what they have seen during the lockdown or after lockdown, they have seen that how safe we are. So because of the safety part itself, I don't see there's an issue at all. Today, people understand that if you're in a mall, you're much safer compared to in a high street. That's completely established. And we have seen this after first lockdown, second lockdown. So that's the reason. Because of this trust, I think more developers are coming to this business, and people already have malls. They know this business is going to grow, and they are willing to develop more malls.
Great. Who goes next?
So I'd like to say that, the next 5 years, the economic indicators are very clear that retail is going to boom. So with that, I believe there's going to be a lot more retail mixed use development over 5-6 years. The other thing that I'd like to see is also there will be smart malls or smart developments from the word go. It would look at sustainable, low carbon footprint, and high on technology. These are the 3 elements that would be there as a matter of, a given. The third aspect is where customers are concerned, their choices will be based on the bedrock of trust and credibility. their choices will also be based on the fact that how are, especially Gen Z, I see them looking at how sustainable the fabric is. So retailers have to look at the source of their product far more than what they are doing so now, because the choices of the brands will depend a lot on, are they green enough?
Yeah.
And not as far as F&B is concerned, I think F&B will be the trendsetter for the next 5 years. There's going to be a lot more action on this space. And digitization is a matter of given. It's here to stay. We all have to not just adapt it, we have to really embrace it and look at how do we stay ahead of the curve and engage with the customers digitally.
Great, Pushpa. Next, please.
Yeah, okay. Let me talk about it. I think the way I look at this is physical and digital as a channel or access to consumer is a coexistent channel. It is not something which is an either or channel. While the digital channel evolved, keeping in mind what are the gaps in the physical channel, we need not in the physical channel do that. We have to play to the strengths of the physical channel. I think somewhere in the rat race, we are trying to emulate the digital channel, which may be very detrimental for us in the long run. So physical channel has to play to the strength, which is essentially in terms of what sort of an experience we want. And I really like when Pushpa said that socially conscious, sustainable brands, because that's exactly what will take us into the future. And that's where India is well poised. And I'm a strong believer that fundamentally, we have much more sustainable practices in our day-to-day life than a lot of technologically advanced and emerging countries where we force ourselves to be sustainable. So we have to coexist. We have to build our unique strength on both the sides, and customer will toggle between both physical and digital. Customer is not going to say that I am a customer for digital or I am for physical. So we have to keep in mind that it's the same persona which is going to toggle between both the spectrums, and we have to be ready for that.
Great, Rajesh.
So I completely agree with what Pushpa and Ganesh said. So as far as digital and retail physical is concerned, digital for sure is here to stay, but at the same time, offline is not going anywhere. I firmly believe in what Aristotle said, that man is by nature a social animal. So there is no reason why people will not come and socialize in the physical stores and especially in the malls, because that gives a complete shopping experience. Not shopping experience, complete socialization experience, I would say now. Now, on the other side, what is globally happening in the brands and which is extremely important is sustainability, as Pushpa and Ganesh both said it just now. Most brands, most international brands are working towards sustainability now. Along with sustainability, another very, very important factor and very close to our hearts, especially in a country like India, which is a developing country, more organized retail is coming, the more social compliance responsibility is coming. Social compliance, when I say it means your responsibility and accountability towards your workforce. It should not be sustainability only in terms of your products, but also sustainability and compliance towards your workforce. These are the two aspects which would really define the future of the brands and the retail, I would say.
Great. I think you have added one more new point, which is socially compliance responsibility. And I think I see a lot of it globally. So we'll have the last word from Nirupa. Nirupa being the youngest in the industry.
Yes. So my thought is that, from a developer perspective, malls will have to become more experiential, as was said earlier. We have to give people reason to come other than just shopping. It'll have to be for that social element of whether it's family entertainment or food and beverage or just larger stores. I think stores are some of the larger brands are actually looking for larger stores so that they can create good experiences within their store for the customers, whether it means calling brand ambassadors or having events within the stores. So I think experiential, being high on experience is important from a mall perspective. From a retailer perspective, I think they do need to focus a lot on consumer behavior analytics, big data when it comes to who's buying, what are they buying, what's moving fast. I'm sure a lot of them are already doing a lot of it. But what I was mentioning in terms of how that extra delta in sales can be pushed up only through consumer behavior analytics. And the third part is on this omni-channel of online, and I think their stores will start having to go use AR and VR to show their products in a better, more enticing manner, and use gamification. Like I think Pushpa mentioned using lookbooks, but that can be gamified if they want to connect with the Gen Z. And I think that those are the three trends I'm seeing.
I'm really delighted that I gave these two sentences to all, because I think that summarizes the whole session, and it's got many more new ideas. I think we touched upon AR, VR, and gamification at the last, and I think that was a good showstopper. Thank you, panelists. It was exciting, it was interesting, and I think it left a lot of food for thought. Maybe we'll ask ET for a separate session to dwell more on some certain topics of this. But thank you very much for your time, and see you again.